Rev up your engines!
Boag Muskie says, Scotty, what do you think about the new Chevy commercial where people say they've switched to Chevy from Toyota, BMW, etc.? Advertisements are just that. They are advertising. They're made by an advertising company who gets paid money to say whatever the client tells them to say. I guess there's certain rules that they can't really make absolutely everything up, like say that, well, this Chevy got 140 miles per gallon, you know? I mean, they can't make up giant lies like that anybody can obviously prove. But when they say what's better and what isn't, that's just a matter of opinion. And an advertising company will do whatever you pay them to do, as long as it's not something where they're going to be put in jail for actually just lying, saying that a car gets 140 miles a gallon when it only gets 25, you know? Don't believe anything you see in ads. I mean, come on now. It's just common sense. People will say anything in an advertisement. And usually they're actors, too, that have been paid money to act in the ad. Mark Gilbert says, anything specific to an '04 Honda CRV that should be checked when looking to buy? Okay, those CRVs can last a long time. I got customers with those for 350,000 and more miles, and they still run good. Honda's automatic transmission, so you want to check the transmission. If you're thinking about buying it used, pay a mechanic like me to put my high-level scanner, drive it, and check all the transmission stuff. You could have a problem in the transmission, and it won't turn your check engine light on Honda a lot of the times. But these fancy machines that I have, when I plug them in, it'll show all kinds of things that's wrong with the transmission, because they'll have special transmission codes that only that fancy computer will read, that a regular OBD2 scanner isn't going to read at all. So you want that checked out. The other thing on that particular model is look at the rear suspension, because sometimes bushings on the left and the right side will wear out, and you'll see the rubber bushing cracked, and it sits a little bit odd side, and it's going to cost you a good $800-900 to change those out. So you might want to look at that too to see if that's worn or not. I've seen those go out on it. Logan Schindler. Is that Schindler's List? Scotty, I have an '09 Ford Escape, 80,000 miles and four-wheel drive. When should I change the power transfer fluid and the rear differential fluid to ensure they last as long as possible? I do it now. I do it every 80,000 miles. Regardless of whatever people say, sometimes they say it's a lifetime fluid. All fluids get dirty, get friction build up into them. So you're much better changing on that thing, say, every 80,000 miles. And stick to the factory fluids. You don't want to be mixing fluids. When you have fluid in a particular transmission or differential or whatever, you want to use the same stuff. You don't want to mix it up. That's best to always use the same stuff. You don't do it that often, so it doesn't matter what the fluid costs. Buy the original stuff. Jim Baker says, Scotty, what do you think of a 2007 Buick Rendezvous? Neighbor has it for sale. I'm thinking about buying it, but when I ask you first, there's 125,000 miles on it. 13-year-old Buick. It might be a decent vehicle if your neighbor took care of it. Don't pay much because it's a 13-year-old Buick. Realize they're not worth that much money. They can be a decent car for driving around. It's got 125,000 miles on it. It's not going to run forever, but if you don't pay much for it, it could be a good knock-around car. I have a lot of customers that have a car like that. That is their knock-around car that they used to get them around town and stuff. It's not the one they use every day. They use it for short trips and stuff like that, and it could be a decent vehicle. Just don't buy something like that and think you can put 25,000 miles a year on it and not have problems. Orlando says, what do you think about a 1996 Chevy Suburban? Well, you know, back then they were reasonably well-built vehicles. I got a customer still got a 96. He's got 300,000 miles. Now, he did have to rebuild the transmission and the rear end. They did eventually wear out. They were tremendous gas hogs. I mean, you put gas in a gas tank and it flies out the tailpipe if you drive it in town all the time. So they are gas hogs. They could last a long time. Now, the new Suburbans, no, they're terrible. I would never advise somebody to buy one. If you were thinking about buying a 96 and it was in reasonable shape, don't pay that much for it because it's an old GM product. It's not worth that much. But if you take care of it and fix a few things, it can last for quite some time. Jason Mudrick says, Scotty, when I start in first gear, my transmission makes a whining noise before I fully depress the clutch pedal. This is especially apparent when I'm going uphill in higher RPMs. You think it's the clutch. Depress the clutch pedal, you start hearing a whining noise. That's usually clutch throwout bearing is starting to go, or the friction plate is starting to wear inside. Either way, you got to pull the transmission off and replace it. And if you're going to go through all that trouble, believe me, buy the entire clutch kit that has all the parts in it. I mean, like if I'm working on a Toyota or Honda or something, putting a clutch in it, I can get a clutch kit for $130, $140. It's got all the parts, quality parts. You do that because it's so expensive to take the transmission off and replace them. You want to change everything. And if yours is whiny now, but it works okay, heck, drive the thing around, and when it starts to have problems shifting or slipping, then replace all the parts. Here we go, 2 minutes to go, 2 minutes.
So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.